begin by seeing a young man with glasses on a bridge at night. This young man possesses a magical sword with a somewhat unusual shape. He confronts a monster that appears in front of him, a creature without a defined form, more like a mass of shadows. He begins to chase it through the nighttime city until he loses sight of it for a moment, but still promises to recover the time it has stolen from them. At another moment, we see several girls gathered at school discussing the idea of going back in time to be with their ex-boyfriends and other romantic matters. However, another girl named Koyuki appears and tells them that it's a silly idea, encouraging them instead to focus on other pending activities, such as practicing with their instruments for an upcoming performance. Later, Koyuki leaves and sees the principal talking to a teacher about time, but the teacher avoids him, and the principal leaves. The teacher then notices her and asks if she needs anything, to which she says yes and begins to talk with her. Later, the girl goes to the cemetery and stands in front of a tombstone, reminiscing about her brother. Seeing a puppy that approaches her, she begins to recount a day when they had plans to meet, and due to her carelessness, a truck almost ran her over, but her brother saved her life at the cost of his own. As she remembers this, the girl wishes that the legend of time travel were true. Just at that moment, the puppy has a bad feeling, and she sees a shadowy figure jumping from side to side. Then, she sees a boy with a katana, the same one from the beginning, who confronts the shadowy monster. The boy manages to drive away the monster, and more boys arrive, calling him Kiri, who will be our protagonist. Seeing them, Koyuki is left confused. After that, the protagonist and his white-haired brother named Victo, who is the other protagonist, take the girl to a bar restaurant. Kiri lies to her, saying that what she saw were special effects and that they are actors. Victo finds this amusing and tries to tell the girl the truth, but his brother stops him. When the protagonist realizes that his secret is almost revealed, he bids farewell to the girl and tells her not to believe in time travel. Victo tries to say something, but his brother takes him away, and he throws a letter with something written on it. Back at home, Kiri talks to Victo about the consequences of telling the girl the truth about time travel, but he doesn't seem to care much. After some time, the girls graduate and perform with their instruments. In the end, everyone enjoys with their families, and Koyuki leaves. Thinking of her brother, tears well up in her eyes. Later, she sees the letter that Victo gave her, explaining that time travel is possible. She then sees her teacher, named Emily, looking younger, which surprises her. She arrives at a bridge with a bell tower and meets Victo. He explains how to make a wish, despite it being somewhat dangerous. She tries it, and when she does, the shadowy monster appears. She approaches it and asks it to return her brother. However, Kiri arrives to protect her and scolds his brother Victo. Emily also appears as a child and disappears, so the boys explain that the monster is called Horolog. They explain that they fight these monsters. Victo uses a power that slows down time, and they inform the girl that they are Chronos rulers who combat these creatures. Afterward, Kiri protects the girl, and Victo deals with the monster, sacrificing some of his time until he destroys it. When everything is over, they explain to Koyuki about time and make her reflect on her brother, making her feel better. After all that, the girl takes a train with her dog, thinking about the boys, while they are on a mountain, and Kiri reveals that Victo is actually his father. In their room, Kiri talks a bit about how diligent he likes to be, but then his father, Victo, wakes up, and they start arguing about how careless his young father can be with the time they've lost. Later, the protagonists head out onto the street and walk through the bustling city. Suddenly, a man approaches them closely, so Kiri stops him and discovers that he had stolen his wallet. He asks for an explanation, and the man tells him he has no money and needs it for his children. Victo approaches and lets him go, saying he understands. Kiri gets angry at what his father just did, but Victo tells him not to worry and that he will recover the money. He rushes off to place a bet. While Victo is gone, Kiri encounters a man regretting his gambling and wanting to turn back time. He inadvertently summons more Horologs. Kiri fights them and protects the man from them. Suddenly, something in the environment changes, and when he looks to the sky, he sees a giant, white Horolog. Victo also appears, and they prepare to fight it since they hadn't seen one so large before. As they battle the monster, it starts talking and reveals that it was the one who consumed his time. Victo becomes angry and attacks it, but he can't harm it. Kiri leads his father away from the battle, knowing that if he continues, Victo will age even further. While they talk in an alley, the girl who was watching them appears. They ask who she is, and she says she's Mina, claiming to be Victo's wife. She rushes to hug him and throws herself at him. A man who was also watching them tells the giant Horolog, called Aches, to retreat before angering his majesty, and it transforms into a white-haired man. Afterward, the group discusses the monster's escape and doubts Mina's claim of of being Victo's wife. She says she will be called Kiri's mother in the future, which seems strange to him. As they argue about who let the monster go, Mina gets angry and takes Victo's diary. They follow her, and Kiri realizes she must be a Chronos ruler. Mina shows the boys some time-related tricks similar to their own, using techniques they didn't know existed, surprising Kiri. Victo grabs her and forces her to give him back his diary, but she explains it's not necessary until she makes him rethink his past and the future that awaits him with her. Victo admits she's right but still can't believe she's his wife, as she looks much younger. Mina gets angry, takes off her jacket, calls him a fool, and shows him that just like him, a horolog bit her. Later, while traveling on a train, Mina and Victo display many signs of affection in public, making Kiri uncomfortable, as he refuses to believe that she is his mother. They continue talking, and Mina tells them that in a certain place, they can find records of the past that they don't remember and that aren't in the diary, so they can see them and believe her. Later, at a station, while Victo asks for information, Kiri talks with Mina, who explains the importance of the object that his father possesses. Something seems odd to him, and he doubts her, so she threatens him. Later, while Mina sleeps, Kiri approaches her and, holding her sword, apologizes. The next day, the three boys walk through the forest, guided by Mina to the supposed headquarters of the Chronos rulers. She holds Victo's hand, but Kiri still can't help but be suspicious of her. After a while of walking, they reach a spot where there are floating stones. At that moment, Mina uses her time power to make one of the stones start falling, explaining that the base is underground. They fall into a massive cave. Inside, there are men monitoring the base who realize that Mina has arrived. They laugh maliciously, saying that she has delivered the two of them. The boys walk to the entrance of a large and luxurious base. Suddenly, the doors open, and a man welcomes them, introducing himself as Snake. They all start entering while talking to Snake, who has a peculiar obsession with school uniforms and actually uses them to perform his Chronos ruler's magic. They continue talking as they walk until they reach a certain point, and Snake reveals his intention to extract the important object from Victo's bite. He slows them down and begins explaining his plan, but Mina, who is unaware of this, gets angry and tries to prevent him from taking, so Snake has to call for others. At that moment, Victo frees himself using his magic because he suspected something and starts moving away with Kiri. However, Snake tries to stop him by closing the door, so Victo uses magic and easily escapes. As Victo says goodbye to Mina, she tries to explain that she didn't know about it, but he doesn't believe her, and the doors close as they finish leaving. Then, Snake's men try to follow them, but Mina stops them, threatening not to touch her beloved. So Snake tells her that he will inform the boss, but the girl leaves. After that, the protagonists exit the cave, and when they reach the entrance above, Kiri congratulates his father for keeping his composure. However, at that moment, Victo lets himself fall back inside and seals the entrance. Kiri gets angry because he can't go in with his father, but Victo, as he falls, says he won't miss this opportunity and planned it to distract Snake's men. So, when he returns to the base, he sees that the men are about to come out to search for him. He decides to climb the tower, recalling what Mina told him about the location of the papers. Meanwhile, upstairs, Kiri tries to enter but can't. Suddenly, the barrier Victo set up is destroyed by fire, and a boy comes out claiming to be a Chronos ruler of fire and starts to confront Kiri. Kiri defends himself well against his opponent, leaving the fire user astonished as his flames don't affect Kiri much. On the other hand, Mina searches for her beloved Victo in the area, but can't find him, so the thought crosses her mind that he might be inside the building. And that's the case, Victo reaches the top of the building and, upon entering, finds something very different, a flower garden and an empty space. He enters a library and finds his record but can't read it because it's in another language. In that book, he also sees a picture from 12 years ago, in which he is with Mina. At that moment, a girl enters and he stops her. She recognizes him, and they start talking while she prepares him something to drink. He asks her many questions, and she responds with a story. In the end, she reveals that she is a goddess of time. The red-haired girl explains to Victo that she is the only descendant of the god Chronos, shows him a bit of her power, and says her name is Ace-Radar. She mentions that she also has the bloodline to fight against the Horologs and tells him not to fear her. Her only desire is for him to return the object in his chest called Unique. Victo realizes that she wants to sacrifice him to obtain the object, so he tries to use a power to slow things down, but she deactivates it with a simple finger movement. He is surprised, but she tells him that she is a goddess and can control everything. She uses her power to immobilize him and extract Unique. Victo sees that he has no other option and tries to use an acceleration power that is harmful to him, but he has no choice but to use it. To his surprise, Ace-Radar stops him and uses a power power against him. Meanwhile, Mina reaches that part of the building or temple, and upon entering, she hears the sounds of a fight and becomes frightened. She rushes in, but she sees that the girl has pierced Victo in the chest with her hand. She laments this and begins to recall events from 500 years ago. In that time, her mother died and she was devastated. Ace Radar arrived and, calling her sister, comforted her, saying that they have immortality, but their loved ones do not. This reminded her not to become attached to others. Mina remembers this and, for that reason, she starts attacking her sister because she wants to take her beloved away from her too. She tries to fight the red-haired girl with her powers, but Mina doesn't succeed. Instead, her sister immobilizes her with her own power. On the other hand, Kiri realizes that he can't waste time with the fire-wielding boy and tries to leave, but he stops him and confronts him again, this time making sure Kiri can't use his water powers. Due to Kiri's inability to use his power, the other boy attacks him with his fire powers and repeatedly strikes him while he is subdued on the ground. Returning to Mina, she sees her beloved passed out on the ground and feels helpless as she can't assist him. She tries to attack again, but her sister stops her, warning her that if she moves, her leg will be affected. Mina knows what could happen but doesn't stop. She breaks the spell and tries to attack her sister, but before she can touch her with her foot, someone holds her back. When she looks, she sees it's Victo, who carries her in his arms. She is surprised and grateful that he's not seriously hurt, so he explains that it wasn't too serious. She starts crying tears of happiness on his chest. Ace Radar explains that what she did was fix his unique, so now he can use the acceleration power without losing time. After that, the red-haired girl continues to explain, and Victo realizes that what she did was a test to see if he could protect the object. He's partially correct, but the girl tells him that now he'll have to face her, and if he loses, he'll have to give her the object. If he wins, he can prove he's worthy to continue guarding Unique. They begin to face off, and Victo unveils new powerful abilities that he can use thanks to the changes the girl made to the object. After explaining the reason for his new powerful attack and how it works, both of them prepare to continue fighting. On the other hand, Kiri continues to battle the fire-wielding boy. He had subdued Kiri on the ground and was striking him, but suddenly, Kiri gets up and counterattacks. Kiri uses his water power, solidifying the water to attack his enemy, which proves effective, surprising the other boy as he didn't expect it. They continue to face each other with great strength until Kiri decides to use a double power similar to what Mina did when they first met. The fire-wielding boy is surprised to see this power and doesn't understand how Kiri has it. Kiri explains that the other time, when he saw Mina sleeping, he switched their powers to weaken her in case she revealed herself. His enemy realizes Kiri's cunning, but mentions that it's not enough, and they continue to fight. While they fight, they start talking about the reasons for the fire-wielding boy's descent into villainy. He shares that he was a good child when he was young, but one day, he was wrongly blamed for something a bad child did, which disappointed him, so he decided to become evil. At one point, the fire-wielding boy mentions that without a purpose or reason to fight, it's impossible for them to win. Kiri shares how challenging it has been to deal with his father, Victo. The fire-wielding boy listens and stops fighting, breaking into tears. He admits he didn't know Kiri's sad story and promises to help him defeat the monster. He says that from now on, he'll be his big brother, which surprises Kiri. Kiri tells him that he doesn't have time for these things and says he needs to rescue his father. However, the fire-wielding boy informs him that his boss has no intention of harming him and instead plans to fix his unique. He also mentions that she was going to challenge him to see if he was worthy. Upon hearing all this, Kiri faints, and the fire-wielding boy thinks about carrying him while calling him his brother. Meanwhile, Victo continues to face Ace Radar, who is amazed by Victo's movements. However, she continues to attack him. In one of those attacks, Victo manages to stop the girl by deceiving her again with various cards containing different tricks or powers, paralyzing her. While she's immobilized, he explains how everything works, and Mina praises him. However, even while restrained, Ace Radar manages to break free from the attack and now starts attacking Victo with an unknown technique. She begins to explain what this technique entails, but it can't be seen because she moves very quickly. She explains that, being a goddess, she can even control her own body, accelerating. Unable to stop her, Ace Radar attacks Victo, leaving him quite injured on the ground. Nevertheless, he manages to escape and catch his breath. Victo tries to perform a new trick to attack the girl, but she knows he's trying to deceive her, so she attacks him and hits him even harder, leaving him almost defeated on the ground. Seeing him in that condition, she tells him that he's not worthy, and when she's about to deliver the final blow, Victo manages to perform a slow-down trick very quickly and positions himself behind behind her with a card against her neck. He tells her that this is how he defeated her and cuts a strand of her hair. isekai realizes that if he had wanted, he could have killed her instantly, so she looks at him and confirms that he is indeed worthy of unique. She also welcomes him back to the Chronos rulers. At the temple, the fire-wielding boy enters angrily, carrying Kiri and expressing his concern for his father, Victo. They encounter Snake, who calls the boy Blaze and assures him that everything is fine and that Victo has completed the test. Afterward, Snake explains everything that happened, even touching on his peculiar fondness for female school uniform. Before getting serious, he discusses several things about Victo's past and guides them to a room where Victo is deciphering the language used in the notebook to see what he can find. When they enter the room, they find Victo surrounded and embraced by women, prompting Kiri to demand answers. Victo mentions that he's gathering information, but his son thinks he's just passing the time, so he takes the record book away from him to try and decipher it himself. After a while, Kiri can't find anything, so he asks Snake for help, who explains something very serious that leaves Kiri deep in thought. In the evening, Kiri lies in bed, but what Snake told him keeps him awake, so he gets up and goes to his father's room. There, Victo tells him that he has deciphered the code himself and found some unimportant information, but there's a date a few days before being bitten, indicating that he traveled to the place where he was born. The next day, Mina goes to Victo's room, but it's empty, so she decides to look for him. Victo arrives at isekai office or room and tells her that he's going to the place where he was born, explaining the reason. She agrees and also mentions some details about security against the monsters. At that moment, Mina approaches, and Victo asks the girl if Mina is really his wife, as something about her doesn't add up. In response to his question, isekai produces a document stating that Kiri and Mina have no relationship, but she also tells him that it's not certain since Mina is different from normal humans. She also asks him to please release Mina from her shackles and not reciprocate her true love due to the responsibility he has. However, Victo tells her that if she's not his wife, he can do it, but if she is, he will love her with all his heart. With that, Victo begins to leave, but he is stopped by the girl, who threatens to kill him if he doesn't fulfill expectations. So, Victo promises not to follow Mina if she doesn't love him. Eventually, she lets him go, but Mina heard everything from behind the door where she's not seen. Later, Snake bids farewell to the group, mentioning that he will miss talking to Victo about female school uniforms. Mina will accompany them, and there's a tense atmosphere between her and Victo. However, they encounter Blaze at the airport, who says he'll go with them, which eases the tension a bit and reconciles Mina with Victo. Later, we see the four kids on a plane mid-flight, talking to another boy with blue hair and a rather peculiar appearance. Once again inside the plane, Kiri tells Mina to fasten her seatbelt because she is sitting on top of her father, but they don't pay attention to him. When he tries to ask Blaze for help, he is asleep in his seat while talking to himself. At that moment, the boy with blue hair and a hat passes by, holding a ring with some sort of shadowy aura around it. The boy goes into the bathroom with a plan in mind. However, the four kids arrive and ask him who he is and why he has that ring with the power of a malevolent horolog. Afterward, Mina uses her power and opens the plane's door, causing the five of them to exit before the boy can use his malevolent power. They all fall outside, but Mina uses her power to lift the four of them back onto the plane, leaving only the villain to fall. They start talking, but then the villain appears above them and introduces himself as Bill. He then summons a massive horolog using his ring. Bill orders the horolog to attack the kids, and it begins to attack Blaze and Mina. While they battle the horolog, Kiri searches on his phone for an app that Snake gave him to determine the age of the horolog and understand its strength. To activate it, he has to shout something embarrassing about schoolgirl uniforms. Victo does it for him, and when the app starts, it reveals that the horolog is 38 years old, which astonishes the kids. This means that the horolog is very powerful, so they try to fight it. After a while of fighting, they manage to injure Bill, but he doesn't feel pain, claiming it's all just a game, and his life meter only dropped by half. The four kids are impressed because he genuinely believes he's in a computer game, and they also feel sorry for how he ended up like this. Bill seems to read their minds and tells them that he ended up here because he didn't fit in at school, so he found an escape in video games. The only one who cared about him was his mother, but he treated her like a servant until she died. He regretted his actions and wanted to change the past, so someone approached him, made him a promise, and gave him the ring to steal time from others, which is why he does what he does. So, that's why Bill sees everything as a game. He prepares to attack again, but suddenly his ring is shattered by one of Victo's cards, causing him to lose control of the horolog. Victo tells him that the solution is to turn off the console, and that's why he destroyed the ring. However, the horolog goes berserk and starts attacking. Still, Victo manages to defeat it with a single attack, leaving the others astonished. Mina makes sure they all land safely, even saving the defenseless Bill, who has has become weak without the ring. When they touch the ground, Mina makes sure everyone is okay, but they all notice Bill, who feels terrible upon realizing that everything was real. He cries inconsolably for his mother. Victo tries to console him, but as Bill was cruel to his mother, he can't forget how ungrateful he was. At that moment, something comes to Victo's mind, and he envisions a beach with 2 coffins. When he sees what's inside, he gets scared and returns to reality. Bill gets up and leaves, and the kids let him go since Victo mentions that he's not a threat. Later, Kiri realizes that something is off with his father, but Victo claims it's nothing. His son realizes that he's adopting the attitude of a father who tries to handle everything alone. But they continue walking through the forest. After a while of walking, the 4 kids manage to reach Victo's hometown, which is very beautiful and full of memories for him. As they walk through the streets, they see things that bring nostalgia to Victo, so Mina takes him by the arm and asks to meet his parents. However, he tells her it's not possible as they passed away 27 years ago. After walking for a while, a boy passes by them, and he encounters a red-haired woman. When Victo sees her, he becomes completely surprised or frightened. He recognizes her as his mom, and then a man identical to his dad also appears, leaving him even more confused. Kiri imagines that if they are Victo's parents, it means they have traveled back in time. Victo is astonished upon hearing his son's possibilities, but pays no attention and walks toward his parents from the past with the intention of talking to them. When his mom sees him, she doesn't recognize him as her son because he is much older, but she tries to help, thinking he's unwell. Before Victo can reveal anything, Kiri takes him away, telling them that he's just exhausted from the journey, and they'll stay at a nearby hotel. At the hotel, Kiri begins to ponder what this time travel might mean and how it could be related to the horologs. However, neither Mina nor Victo pays much attention to him. The next day, Victo goes for a walk and tells Kiri not to see people as threats since it's his childhood town. So Kiri decides to drop what he's doing and follows him, caught up in the nostalgia. Victo arrives at his parents' clinic, and they attend to him, thinking he's sick. Later, Victo meets up with the kids outside a store, where he talks to them about his parents and how kind they are. Then, Victo's mom walks by, and he helps her with some bags. After deliberately complaining about the hotel's conditions, she invites them to dinner at her house, and Victo accepts, explaining to Kiri the advantages of being with. In the evening, they are all at Victo's parents' house, chatting with them while Kiri prepares dinner despite being a guest. Victo's father introduces himself as Alexander, and his mother as If. They talk about their noble motivations for being doctors, and then Kiri serves dinner. The food looks very appetizing and restaurant quality, but when they taste it, everyone is surprised as it has a strange flavor for Victo's parents. But they still like it. After dinner, they continue talking, and then Victo's 5-year-old self comes downstairs, treating his parents poorly, which the kids find unattractive. However, it brings bitter memories for Victo as he used to be like that. If explains that despite that, he's a good kid who helps them a lot, so Victo encourages them, saying they are good parents. The next day, Victo goes to his mother's painting room and sees her working on a painting. She explains that it's a gift for her son and asks him to keep it a secret. Then, he says goodbye, telling her she's a good mother. When he leaves, Victo meets Kiri, who warns him about the consequences of being there, but Victo scolds him and sends him to investigate elsewhere. So, they part ways, each going in a different direction without knowing they are being watched by someone. Later, we see Blaze along with Kiri and Mina in the forest, facing several not very large horologs. They manage to defeat them, and in the end, a 45-year-old horolog appears, but that monster flees, which seems odd to the kids, so they start following. While they follow it, Kiri thinks that he didn't find anything strange in the people of the city but rather in the city itself, so they make an effort to catch up with the monster, and Blaze makes them laugh with something he tells them. On the other hand, Victo encounters his father in the street, who is in a hurry and drops a bag of medications. Victo asks him what's going on, so Alexander explains that it seems If had a relapse of her illness and is unconscious, bleeding from the mouth, so he needs to hurry to save her. Victo is somewhat impressed by this and helps him up, offering to go with him to help with something, so they both run off to the scene. When they arrive, they see a patient and a young Victo with If lying in a bed. They mention that young Victo gave her treatment and managed to stabilize her. The young Victo insults his father for not coming earlier, and tells him he's leaving to take an exam at school. At that moment, If starts to experience something again, and Alexander gets scared. When he checks on her, he realizes what it is and informs them that she needs a blood transfusion. Alexander also explains that it has to be from a specific blood type, or else it will only make his wife's condition worse. On the other hand, we see the 3 kids facing the horolog, but this snake-like monster is very fast and avoids their attacks, so they can't defeat it completely. Later, while Mina and Kiri observe the city, she mentions that the city is stealing her beloved's happiness, and that's why she hates it. Therefore, they decide to help, but Kiri sees something unusual along the path taken by the horolog. Back in the clinic, the young Victo tells his father to stop being incompetent and take the necessary blood from him for his mom. However, Alexander tells him he can't take that much from a child. Then, If wakes up and tells her son not to worry and to go take the exam, but he asks his father to do it quickly, which earns him praise from the future Victo. Alexander prepares If and the young Victo for the transfusion but is scared to do it. The future Victo encourages him, and he goes through with it. When they finish, they see that If needs more blood, but the young Victo can't take it anymore. So, the future Victo realizes he has the same blood and offers himself. Alexander begins the transfusion. When they finish, If wakes up much more stable, which greatly pleases Alexander, who hugs her while crying. Victo feels good seeing his parents like that and leaves, thinking it was worth it, even if it's a lie. Outside, he meets the young Victo, who tells him that his mom is fine now and suggests he go see her. However, the young Victo says he didn't take the exam because of them and starts speaking ill of his parents. Upon hearing this, the future Victo gives him a strong slap, and Alexander comes out to thank him for the transfusion but tells him to leave because of what he did to his son. Victo leaves, feeling remorseful, and starts imagining all his loved ones attacking him until he wakes up in a cabin while it's raining. On the other hand, Kiri finds an edge in a certain area of the forest and comes to the conclusion that this is the reason for the city's temporal confinement. Kiri discusses with his companions what the temporal confinement of the city might mean, wondering who could have caused it, so they plan to do something about it. In the cabin, Victo is feeling very sad, and there comes a man with long dark hair who stares at him. While Kiri observes the surrounding countryside, he wonders what all of this means and deduces that someone is controlling everything, as it even seems like the horologs are protecting the city. They also conclude that the city is trapped in some sort of time loop, as it appears that the same day keeps repeating. As Kiri discusses this with Mina and Blaze, they hear a voice telling them that they have discovered the secret. When they turn around, they see two men, one of whom has a ring that controls horologs. Along with them is the serpent horolog, so the man introduces himself as Kyoyusuke and threatens to kill them. As Kiri attacks him, the other man with a white mustache steps in and introduces himself as Reiko. They begin to fight, but Blaze distracts Reiko and leads him away, leaving Kiri with Mina and Kyoyusuke. Kyoyusuke recognizes Mina as Nana, which surprises Kiri and makes him wonder if she is truly his mother. However, they start to confront each other, and Kyoyusuke uses old memories to try to weaken or anger Mina. On the other hand, the white-haired boy arrives with Victo and starts asking him questions, but Victo notices something strange about him. Bill then arrives and asks for another chance from this man, but what he does is transform into half-white horolog and swallow Bill, leaving Victo astonished. He asks the man what he is. The man finds it amusing and confusing that Victo doesn't recognize, as they have met several times before. He sticks out his tongue to show a hint, and Victo recognizes him as the white horolog who stole his memories. Victo, quite surprised, asks for an explanation about what he's doing with his hometown. The white horolog tells him that he's curious about people's reactions, so he experiments with them and revives them. On the other hand, we see Kiri facing off against the man with Mina, but as they find it quite challenging, Mina protects him from several attacks. In one of these attacks, Mina receives a strong blow, and Kyoyusuke reveals that the white horolog must be with Victo, so Mina entrusts Kiri with protecting her father while she deals with that enemy. The white horolog continues telling Victo about all the experiments he has conducted with his parents, killing them in various ways and reviving them just to see their reactions. Victo finds all of this horrifying and gets very angry. The horolog then proposes two options as part of an experiment. First, he reveals his weakness and tells Victo that if he kills him, everything will return to normal, and he will never see his parents again. But if he lets him live, he can keep seeing his parents in this loop. This puts Victo in doubt, but in his anger, he attacks the white horolog and tries to stop him, demanding the memories of his family. We also see Mina facing Kyoyusuke alone, mentioning that she is ready to fight to save her beloved. After a while, the white horolog manages to defeat Victo, and when he is about to devour him, Kiri appears and rescues his father, preparing to face the horolog. Once again, we see Mina facing off against Kyoyusuke, and he questions the reasons for telling his son to leave, which angers her, and she begins to attack. However, the snake-shaped horolog helps him. Afterward, he taunts her anger and mentions that Victo took out one of his eyes and that he now knows a way to get revenge, so he prepares to attack her. Kyoyusuke tells her that his revenge will be killing his wife, and they start to battle. But Mina is very strong and powerful, so she avoids the attacks and retaliates. Mina breaks one of the man's rings, and he seems to lose control of the horolog, so she attacks him. However, he counterattacks and tells her it was all a deception because he has the ring well hidden. After that, while Mina attacks, she becomes paralyzed, and the man admits that he immobilized her with snake venom, so now he will defeat her completely. We also see Blaze facing off against Reiko, which seems offensive to him because Reiko is just an old man, but he decides to attack him anyway. Reiko stops that attack with a single blow, which astonishes Blaze, so he asks him what the secret is, whether he has a ring or used to be a Chronos ruler. To answer him, Reiko removes his shirt, and Blaze is amazed because his body is like that of a horolog, realizing that they are fused. Reiko explains that when he was a child, his parents abandoned him because he had a limb disease, but the master picked him up and gave him that body. Hearing this sad story, Blaze cries. After that, Blaze tells him that he also has a purpose, and they continue to battle, but the old man seems to be gaining the upper hand. Meanwhile, Kyoyusuke threatens to inject more venom into Mina, so when he is about to do it, the snake horolog disappears. Mina frees herself and explains that her blood also purifies the venom, so she fought poison with poison, and she begins to face the scared man again. She traps him in a vacuum bubble and mocks him for losing without suspecting anything. Blaze now reveals a new move and begins to attack the old man, who is surprised as he didn't expect that. In the end, this attack leaves Reiko defeated and without his part of the horolog, so he tells him that he failed the king. Blaze then leaves. Back with Kiri, he defends his father and confronts Aches, who dodges and devours all his attacks as if they were nothing. This surprises Kiri, but he doesn't stop facing him, even setting a trap to stop him, and succeeds in injuring him with solidified water. However, Aches heals in an unseen way before, which surprises Kiri even more. Aches takes advantage of the moment to talk to them about fear, and make the kids even more scared. While they are distracted, one of Aches' horologs bites Kiri, who falls to the ground in pain. Aches approaches him and starts mocking him, saying that his time of death has come because he has the look of fear that people have when they are about to die. He wants to devour him, but Victo tries to stop him. At that moment, he transports himself to a place in his mind where he is chained by his father and the past Victo. After a while of suffering from the things they say, he manages to break free from the chains and decides to help his son. So he attacks with the cards and uses them to throw them at a shadow he sees. But then he realizes it's his mother, who says goodbye to him, causing him to worry. When Victo realizes that he attacked his mother, he becomes scared and apparently regrets it because he doesn't want to lose her. Victo returns to reality and sees that he managed to attack Aches and hurt him, so he tells him that despite injuring him, he didn't hit the weak spot, which means he doesn't want that world to disappear. For that reason, Aches attacks him again upon seeing his vulnerability. However, Victo sees his mother and the others again, who plead with him not to make them disappear, especially his mother, which makes him feel guilty. But Victo remembers that this is an illusion created by the horolog, so he punches the one who appears to be his mother. When the illusion fades, it's Aches whom he hits in the core. Using one of the remaining cards, he manages to make Aches start vomiting the time of the city he had swallowed, gradually restoring the city. Kiri, observing what's happening, tells his father that he surely still has a chance to see his mother before she disappeared, but Victo initially refuses to go at that moment. Later, Kiri convinces him to reconsider, and he agrees to go see his mother before she disappears, so they go to their house. When Victo arrives, he sees his mother in bed painting the picture that would be for young Victo. She welcomes him and invites him to sit beside her. They start talking, and If tells him that there are no hard feelings for what he did to Victo, as they are very grateful for saving her. She also begins to tell him the story of the feather with which she draws. In the end, she tells him that she will give that feather to Victo and hands it to him, saying that she knows it's Victo. Victo is surprised and asks her since when, to which she replies that from the beginning, as she recognized, and she starts crying while telling him that she's proud to see him in the future. He, in turn, starts crying in her lap and apologizes for how he used to be. Their time together comes to an end, and she disappears, leaving the room in the present time, empty and desolate. Aches then arrives and tells Victo that he has understood a bit now, so he wants to repeat the experiment and make his mother appear again. However, Victo has already learned and doesn't pay attention. Instead, he interrogates Ace. Based on Ace's response, Victo strikes him hard, telling him that he won't forgive him for resurrecting and killing his family just for experiments that led to nothing. When they step out onto the street, Mina and Blaze arrive, and Mina gives the cards to the boy so he can defend himself. They start confronting Ace using different powers, but Ace informs them that now they won't stand a chance since he has his energy at 100% after vomiting that time. Nevertheless, the kids tell him that nothing is impossible and attack him together to try to stop him, which surprises Ace because he sees that they are not afraid. So he decides to make them face death even closer and unfurls his wings, which have a dissolving effect, causing their attacks to disappear upon contact. Ace sees fear in the kids, but when he looks at Victo, he sees that he doesn't show it, so he starts to recall that he met His Majesty a long time ago, who gave him that name and promised to give him time to eat and understand emotions. But after all this time, he hasn't managed to understand anything, so being distracted by the fact that they no longer fear him, the kids attack him fiercely. When it seems like they are about to defeat him, Ace mentions that he can't unleash his power with that body, so he modifies his body, leaving everyone impressed, and immediately attacks Victo, causing Kiri to become frightened. Victo tries to stop the attack but fails. When the dust settles, they realize that everyone is okay, but scared by the close call, they decide to escape from Ace. At that moment, he begins to perform a time trick. Mina intervenes and saves Kiri from the blow, telling him to escape while she takes care of things, mentioning that she will protect her loved one and her son. So, Mina faces the monster, but doesn't manage to do much against it. When Kiri sees what's happening to Mina, a plan comes to his mind, and he tells Victo, who agrees. Before leaving, he apologizes to his father. Victo carries Mina and tells them to let him try. He and Kiri attack Ace, managing to revert him to his human form. Then they attack his mouth to destroy the core that gives him strength. However, when they do this, nothing happens to Ace. He explains that he has changed the position of the core and starts attacking the kids again, who try to escape. As they see no solution, an idea comes to Victo's mind. He tells his son, even though Kiri thinks it's a bad idea. Eventually, Kiri accepts it, despite the risk to Victo's life, as there's no other solution at the moment. Victo prepares to attack and approaches Ace. While on top of him, he talks to Ace about the hunger for time that he must have, as he is losing his strength. Victo continues to say that he will feed him now and takes out his unique from his shoulder, heading towards Ace. Ace thinks it's nonsense but won't stop himself from dying, so he opens his mouth to swallow it, and Mina screams in fear for her husband. Before Ace can swallow it, Victo uses his power to slow down time and threatens Ace, but he, in turn, starts getting younger. Mina is scared to see this and wants to stop it, but Kiri stops her and explains the plan, as this is how they will make Ace reveal his core and attack him. As planned, Victo passes through Ace, who then takes out the core. The kids attack it, causing Ace to disappear, and everything returns to normal. Kiri, Mina, and Blaze are surprised that it worked, but when they look for Victo, they can't find him, and they realize that his time is fading. Mina gets scared and blames Kiri, so they look for a way to help. Suddenly, they see Victo's spirit, which they can't see, trying to return but unable to do so. Then they see the spirits of his parents, who congratulate him and ask him to return. Victo sees his son Kiri crying for him and understands that he must return. So, he reappears with his human body. Everyone is delighted to see him, and he teases Kiri for having cried. They leave together. While the four of them are on the train, they joke about what happened and express gratitude for being together. Later, Kiri talks with Victo, and they realize that Ace must still be alive, but they will search for him and defeat him, promising to enjoy life as well. In the end, they make jokes about eating spaghetti through their noses, and an announcement appears, saying, "Hope to see you in another time."